Hello again. With the exception of the Semitic colony of Axum in what is now Ethiopia, almost the whole of the African continent south of the Sahara was, until the arrival of European explorers, still in the Stone Age. In recent years, great efforts have been made to conceal this unpalatable fact for political reasons by pretending that there were cities and civilisations in Black Africa, purely indigenous cultures. It is all nonsense, of course, and the best example of how these fairy tales have been devised is to look at one specific and much quoted instance of the supposed wonders which existed before the coming of the white man, and that is the walls of Benin. It is claimed that there was in that part of Africa which is today Nigeria a great city with walls longer than the Great Wall of China. Some sources say 4 times as long as the Great Wall of China. It is also claimed that there was street lighting and various other marvellous things. The thumbnail to this video shows one of the images which will come up if you Google Great Walls of Benin. It is, of course, sheer fantasy. Most of the other images, apart from this one, are various modern walls and have nothing at all to do with the so-called Walls of Benin. This idea has become one of those myths dug up for Black History Month and brandished by those who hope to show that Africa was not really in the Stone Age at all when Europeans arrived. Just think, mighty walls, longer than the Great Wall of China. The problem is, of course, that there were no walls at all. Not a single wall of any description. This is all complete rubbish. What there were ditches and earthworks, essentially heaps of mud. You can see the same thing in Britain, near where I live in Epping Forest. There are the remains of a couple of Iron Age hill forts, Amesbury Banks and Loughton Camp. And you can see there that earth has been heaped up into banks, and there's a ditch as well. These are, well, roughly speaking, they're defensive works. They're not walls. They never were walls. They were banks and ditches, the same as now remain. In these things in Benin, by the way, were supposedly constructed around 800 AD. The same banks and ditches a couple of miles from here were 1,000 years before that. The story that the English destroyed the walls of Benin is also quite false, for there were no walls to begin with. In the description to this video, I give a link to the Wikipedia article on the walls of Benin, which they describe more accurately as a moat. You will observe the same two references here as always crop up in anything at all about the Great Walls of Benin, which is that the 1974 Guinness Book of Records said that they were one of the largest construction projects ever seen, and also that some Dutch guy in the 17th century was very impressed with them. The fact that the only authority for believing that these ditches were as big as the Great Wall of China is from a popular book published over 50 years ago should make us pause and ask ourselves why that one reference over half a century ago is the only source for this claim. I wonder what happened in the succeeding years. Why doesn't the Guinness Book of Records still claim that the Great Walls of Benin were bigger than the Great Walls of China? Whenever I see a single reference like this, one over half a century old, and no other reference since, I always feel slightly suspicious. As for the famous Dutchman, Alfred Dapper, who wrote a vivid description of them in his book, A Description of Africa in 1668, again, his description is very often quoted in websites which talk about the Great Walls of Benin. The sad fact is that Dapper never even left Holland once in his life. His book is a collection of tales which were spun to him by sailors whom he interviewed. The Great Walls of Benin are just one more of those ridiculous stories which have been devised to make black people feel good about themselves. Like all the other supposed civilisations which existed in Africa, they're no more than elaborate, I suppose calling them legends would be charitable. They're nonsense. They're fairy tales. If you wish to look for genuine ancient civilizations, you'll need to look at Europe and Asia rather than Africa.